Hi. Thank you. Freedom. Endowed by our Creator, defined by our Constitution, but defended each and every day by the men and women who proudly wear the uniform of these United States. We're going to say it over and over again today, but we can't say it enough. Would all the veterans who are sitting and those who are standing, would you stand or wave your hand for those who have served our country, those serving today, and add to them the families who supported them? I want to thank all of our veterans, but I particularly, when I was out before shaking hands, I saw a couple World War II veterans. Today, 71 years ago, was D-Day. And so let's just thank those who are here, but let's remember those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, not just on that day, but all throughout our nation's history. Let's just pause for a moment. Thank you. And thanks for coming out. It's been a blast. I had a lot of fun. Harley Davidsons are made just a few blocks from my home, just outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I want to thank your great Senator Joni Ernst for giving me the chance to ride with her today. We rode in with her husband and about 300 riders from the barn in Des Moines, and we just had a blast. And thank you for keeping the rain away. I brought my rain gear just in case, but it's nice that we didn't have to use it. But not only thank you for letting us join in the ride in this event, but thank you. I got to tell you, I love a senator who knows how to castrate a pig, ride a hog, and cut the pork from Washington, D.C. Now, wouldn't it be nice to give her an ally in the White House to help get the job done? You got a great team here in Iowa. You got her and Chuck Grassley. In fact, after this, I'm going to run up. We're a little bit behind. We're going to run up to Mason City and help Chuck Grassley out. You got Terry Branstad, my good friend, and Kim Reynolds. You got a great team in Congress here. And it's kind of funny. A lot of you don't know this little trivia. Chuck Grassley was once my state representative. You may not know this, but my father's a preacher. We were first call for him was in Colorado Springs, Colorado. I was born in 1967, but in 1970, we moved to a small town, 450 people, called Plainfield, Iowa. And I was there from 1970 to 1977, and Chuck Grassley was my state representative. How about that? And he's just as honest today as he was there. My father, that's long since retired, but every time Chuck Grassley comes on TV, he says, there is an honest man, and you know it more than any. Thank you for sending a great team, and Chuck Grassley and Joni Ernst, the United States Senate from Iowa. Now, we moved in 1977 when I was in third grade to another small town called Delavan. And I think back over the years, I had the great opportunity early on in life as a kid. My first job was washing dishes at the Countryside Restaurant. I later moved up to the big time. I started flipping hamburgers at McDonald's. In fact, funny story, I was flipping burgers in Delavan. My friend, you might have heard of him, Paul Ryan, was flipping burgers down the road in Janesville. The only difference is Paul's manager told him he had to flip hamburgers in the back because he didn't have the interpersonal skills to work the front cash register. My manager might have thought that too, but Rita just didn't tell us. But I think about that, growing up there in that small town, like a lot of small towns across this country, and not just for me and my brother, but we look back in life. My parents, my dad was a small town preacher at the First Baptist Church. My mom was a part-time secretary and a bookkeeper. We looked along the way and we realized, for them and my grandparents on my mom's side were farmers. They didn't have indoor plumbing until my mother went off to junior high school. My dad's dad, my Grandpa Walker, was a machinist for 42 years at Barbara Coleman in Rockford, Illinois. I look back at my life and realize my brother and I did not inherit fame or fortune from our family. What we got was more important, and that is the belief that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you can do and be anything you want in America. That's the American dream. And we need to stand up, and we need people in Washington who are going to fight so that every American can live their piece of the American dream. Not leaders that pit one group of Americans versus another, but people who lead the entire country forward, saying everyone who wants to work, everyone who wants to live by the rules and play by the rules should be able to live their piece of the American dream in this great country. And it certainly doesn't mean with more government. You know, sometimes I listen to this president, people like Hillary Clinton, you think they'd measure success in government by how many people are dependent on the government. We not just as Republicans, but as Americans, we should measure success by just the opposite, by how many people are no longer dependent on the government. You see, because we understand that true freedom and prosperity do not come from the mighty hand of the government. They come from empowering people to live their own lives and control their own destinies through the dignity that is born of work. Of work. You know, I think about growing up in that small town. I don't ever remember one of my classmates saying to me, "Hey, Scott, someday when I grow up, I want to become dependent on the government." Nobody signed my yearbook saying, "Good luck becoming dependent on the government." No, in America, one of the great things about this place is we're one of the few places left in the world where it doesn't matter what class you were born into. It doesn't matter what your parents did for a living. In America, the opportunity is equal for all, but the outcome is still up to each and every one of us. If you remember nothing else today, remember this. There's a reason why we take a day off to celebrate the 4th of July and not the 15th of April, because in America, we celebrate our independence from the government, not our dependence on it. And finally, on a day when we think about 71 years ago, when we think about the men and women, many of whom have made the ultimate sacrifice, it's time in America that we start leading, not just here, but around the world. And think about the contrast in front of us. We've got under Barack Obama and the policies of Hillary Clinton, more than any others, because of her role as Secretary of State, we've got a situation where in America, we've got a president who draws a line in the sand and allows people to cross it. Someone who calls ISIS the JV squad, who calls Yemen a success story, who calls Iran a place we can do business with. Think about that. When I grew up in that small town of Delavan, I remember the tree in front of our house. And back in 1979, my brother and I would put yellow ribbons around that tree because Americans like my friend Kevin Hermaning, who lives in Wausau, Wisconsin, was a Marine, the youngest Marine there, held hostage. People like him were held for 444 days. That country has not changed. We should not change our position in dealing with Iran. Now more than ever, in America, we need a commander-in-chief who will tell it like it is and tell the people of this country and those listening around the world that radical Islamic terrorism is a threat, and we're going to stand up and fight it. We need a leader in America who will reaffirm that Israel is actually an ally and start treating them as such. And we need a president in this country who's going to stand up and tell the American people what may be hard to say, and that this threat isn't like the threat we faced in the Cold War where containment's enough. No, instead, this is like a virus, and if we don't take it out, we're in trouble. And so I don't believe in open-ended engagements, but we need a president that's going to say this is going to take a day or a week or a month or maybe even a year. But I, on behalf of your children and mine, would rather take the fight to them instead of waiting until they bring the fight to us. We need to lead from the front again in America. And so I appreciate you being all out here today. I know now more than anything what has made this country a great, what has made us exceptional, what has made us the greatest country in the history of the world has been all throughout our nation's history. In times of crisis, be it economic or fiscal, military or spiritual, what has made America amazing has been in those times of crisis there have been men and women of courage who've been willing to stand up and think more about the future of their children and their grandchildren than they thought about their own futures. I would submit to you now, this is one of those times. This is one of those moments in American history when we can look back and tell future generations, we were there. We stood up and heeded the call. We did what was required. America great again. With your help, that's exactly what we're going to do. God bless you. Thanks for coming out. God bless our troops, and God bless the great United States of America. Thank you.